Hello, everybody, and now welcome. Since I do have Battlefront 2 now, both of them now. Yes, I begrudgingly got EA Battlefront 2, but I got Battlefront 2 on the Xbox back compat. But anyway, now I'm going to give you some thoughts on The Last Jedi, but I'm not going to start it off with The Last Jedi. I'm going to make this like a really long series of videos, maybe like 10 or more parts over just the things that have been going on in the Star Wars community and stuff like that. I know there's a lot of stuff more recent, like Kelly Marie Tran deleting her Instagram because of trolls and stuff or harassing her. Though there is another side to that story that I will go into when I get to it, but I'm going to start off right after the Force Awakens release. This is like everything leading up to The Last Jedi as far as the Star Wars universe as a whole, like what has been added, what has been taken away, why are so many people pissed off, and why when The Last Jedi came out, it was basically the last straw for a lot of Star Wars fans if they weren't already driven away by The Force Awakens, which I think there was a lot of people who were driven away by The Force Awakens. And so right after The Force Awakens out, it was led to critical and fan acclaim. It's like a lot of people was like, yes, this is a return to form of Star Wars. It's the best thing since the prequel trilogy started. This is like, wow, we finally got ourselves a true Star Wars sequel. But that's not the whole story, because the following year, it was apparent that there was more than a couple of flaws in that movie. Alright, and one of the major flaws was the fact that it was basically A New Hope rewritten. Like, it was still A New Hope. Like, no matter what you say about how the setting was different and stuff like that, and how it had different characters, it was basically still A New Hope. It was just A New Hope, alright? And there's a lot of people who accuse J.J. Abrams, the writer and director, co-writer and director of that movie, as being, like, doing Grand Theft Auto on George Lucas's work, which technically you would be right if Disney hadn't already bought Star Wars as a franchise, and that's how they did that. But anyway, those major flaws were the fact that Star Wars The Force Awakens was a basic rewrite and rebooting of Star Wars, except that they used not only the original characters in it, they didn't give them anything to do, which is pretty bad. Alright? I don't think anybody going into the Star Wars sequel trilogy... Oh, crap. Wrong button. Yeah, I don't think there was anybody going into the Star Wars sequel trilogy wanting Han Solo to get stabbed through the gut by his own son, who for some reason was named Ben Solo. And a lot of people really noted that at the time of release. It's like, why are there so many things being used from the extended universe that Disney apparently took away? All right, and that's another big thing that caused a lot of controversy when Disney got it. It's like they said that they were getting rid of the expanded universe. The expanded universe that had been standing for over 30 years was dead, and it was in order to accommodate The Force Awakens. And that's another big thing that a lot of people really did not like about The Force Awakens, was the fact that it was basically destroying those stories. All right, those were stories that were almost universally known. I didn't know them because while I was a big Star Wars fan, I didn't have access to the books. Like, my library sucked, and though they did have the Jedi Apprentice novels, they didn't have much else. Well, but whichever novels those were about Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon's adventures as Obi-Wan as a Padawan. I think it's Jedi Apprentice, but anyway. There was a lot of stuff in the extended universe that people really loved, especially the portrayal of Luke Skywalker as the galaxy's ultimate badass. Like, he was overpowered and shit. Alright, and Obi-Wan and Leia and stuff like that. And Han, it was like all that stuff. One of the people really loved the sequel, the extended universe, because of it. And then that was all getting ripped away. Alright, and they also had stuff like Mara Jade, who was Luke's wife, and Luke's son, and then you have Jake Skywalker, being ripped away. And Mark Hamill actually in interviews with the press talked about Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi basically being Jake Skywalker, and that he's not the Luke Skywalker. But, that's a whole different issue. We'll come to it. So they get rid of the extended universe, and then they use assets of the extended universe to make the movie, and it's just weird. It's like a lot of people were kind of confused, and a lot of people really hated it. All right, and there was a lot of people who were very not so enthused with Rey's character, who many saw her as a Mary Sue. And while I did not see really much evidence to really support that at first. I thought Rey was a decent enough character. She had somewhat of a drive, but she was aimless, and she certainly was flawed. She was nowhere near as good as Luke's character, and she never will be. And so it's just like, I wonder what's going on here. But yeah, like a lot of people did not like Rey's character in particular, especially after the apparent character assassination of Han Solo, which I still didn't see that at first. But so anyway, alright, and even James Cameron criticized the film as being too similar to A New Hope. And he said that he really preferred the Star Wars original trilogy. So anyway, those were the three major flaws. Rey was a Mary Sue, apparently. The original characters were getting character assassinated out the ass, and it was just way too similar to A New Hope. That's honestly the major problems that I saw that many people saw with Force Awakens. For some, it actually ruined it. So it wasn't until I watched the film more than a couple times that I really did start to see its flaws. Like, everything that happened was too convenient. Everything that happened so fast. And it was in a 2-hour runtime. How do you make things feel fast in a 2-hour runtime? And JJ did that either intentionally or unintentionally by making it happen every 5 seconds. Whenever something happened, it always happened within 5 seconds of each other. Like, the pace never really lagged, and that only works in stuff like 1999's The Mummy, directed by Stephen Sommers. Right, that thing always has something happening, but it feels so fluid because they at least give you time to rest. They give us time to really expand upon the lore of that movie. Alright, and yeah, there's certainly some things rushed and convenient in that movie, but it's not in there so much that it ruins the tone. Alright, yeah, the movie's an action comedy, but it still at least takes the time to simmer you down with the music and the horror vibes that it gives off when you have Imhotep, killing everybody, that at least still makes it feel like this isn't a fool you're dealing with in the form of Imhotep. And then I started realizing, just like, what is going on with this movie? It's like everything is too rushed, and then a bunch of things that happen, they happen within a few seconds of each other by pure happenstance. Like, Rey and Finn were trying to escape Jakku, and then all of a sudden, the Millennium Falcon's right there. It's like, it's just right there. They don't even refer to it as the Millennium Falcon. It's like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Like, you're shitting, right? Are you kidding? And then Rey also said she never flew the ship before. She never flown any ship before, as a matter of fact. Even though she said that she was a pilot. And while that can be debated as whether or not it was a ground vehicle or not. Or a vehicle that couldn't actually break, outer space. And we got nothing really to establish that. I mean, she had been walking around the desert the whole movie. I mean, at least in the prequels, they actually showed us Anakin's prowess at the hands of a pod racer. So at least you knew, and they at least established that he could do this. He could do a lot of things with it. But they didn't show us with that. We saw her walking around dragging shit. Well, if she had a ship, and if she could pilot it, why couldn't she pilot the ship to do her shit? Alright, and I know she didn't want to leave Jakku in the first place, but seriously though, that shouldn't stop her from getting a ship. And then as she's piloting it, she's pulling off some of the best moves ever seen in the Falcon. And yes, some of you could say, well, there was technical issues. I couldn't exactly make things look like that in the original trilogy. I may give that to you, but the fact of the matter is, she was able to pull off some really crazy shit, like cutting off the engine in order to get Finn's gun in position to shoot the last TIE fighter, and then jumping it up and then cutting the engine back up so that way it could, get not crash land. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Okay, not even Han Solo could do that. All right, and Han Solo had Chewie, who was his co-pilot. So it's just a lingering thought. It's like, how is she able to do this? And some of you may be saying, well, it's the Force. I'm like, no. It was not established that she was able to field the Force at all. And then another tip of convenience. Right after they leave Jakku and start talking about where to go, Han Solo and Chewie actually find them. And it's just like, what? Where were they at? There's no way they would have been exactly at that moment. No, not in the galaxy that big. Alright, and the galaxy is big. Alright, all galaxies are big. Everything takes a lot of time. I don't care if they have hyperspace and stuff, right? There's no way they would have been able to track exactly where it was. And then, Han was like, yeah, the junk trader who was like enslaving you, he stole the Falcon. And he's like, I've been trying to find it for years. It's like, well, how the hell did you find it? Especially after, unless you had like a tracking thing on there, in which case, why the hell didn't you get it sooner? Or did you just now decide to do it? Or like, what? Like, did you get Alzheimer's, Han? And it really didn't help the fact that Han became a grumpy old hermit, which is what happened to Luke in Last Jedi, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, he just became a grumpy old hermit. He turned, like, all of his character development from the previous films is just gone. Alright, one of the big things that really cemented Han in the hearts of so many Star Wars fans was the fact that he was supposed to leave right after. He was supposed to leave the rebellion right after he saved Luke and Leia. Well, after he saved Leia, but instead he came back. He realized that there was a cause worth fighting for. He came back to help save everybody. But that's not what but now this undermines it because they wanted to basically make Han into a divorced dad stereotype. And it's just sad. It really is. It really was just sad to see Han like that. Alright, and I didn't really notice it until the first couple of times. Alright, that's just a couple examples of the convenience. And then also, Han being like Han is in that movie. So it was just irritating to me to see that. And I know a lot of people really felt irritated. But I tried holding out hope for the movie as a whole. But then I started thinking about people like Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren has to be either the new trilogy's bright spot or the new trilogy's death, per se. It's like, I know a lot of people really hate Rey, but a lot of people really didn't like Kylo Ren, and there is a couple of reasons why. Because, one, Kylo Ren is an angsty little bitch. Alright, when something doesn't go his way, he's always fucking shit up with his hands. Well, with his lightsabers. He's always acting like a superfluous little bitch. Every time something doesn't go his way, he's either chopping shit up or force choking someone. Alright, top that off, the way he conducts himself, he's supposed to be like this huge Vader fanboy, which is something I would have really loved from Kylo had it not that he acted almost nothing like Vader. Yeah, Vader had his tantrums, but he always had control over himself. Alright, I'm not using Luke Skywalker, I'm not going to use Anakin from the prequels as like some type of example here, because, Anakin, alright, and I liked episode 3 Anakin, but Anakin was not the greatest in terms of character in the prequels. Of course, he never will be. But it's just like Kylo Ren is an angsty little bitch, and then for some reason, it's like just some unexplained reason, all of a sudden they're just like, "Hey, you're Han's son." And it's like, once again, that's super convenient. Why would? That's weird, right? And like I said, this goes back to what I said on the whole reusing assets from the extended universe, and they did. All right, Jake Skywalker, big friend, or not a big friend, but I need to reread that. But anyway, it's like relative to relative, okay? All of a sudden, goes to the dark side. Only here we get little to no explanation as to why, and you get that in a couple of flashback sequences. But other than that, not really. It's like you don't really know why Kylo went dark side, and it was just really, really annoying to not get a lot of information. And another big lack of information is the lack of world building. It doesn't really set up a setting. Alright, one of the things that the prequels did well, in my opinion, alright, and this is coming from someone who absolutely thinks a lot of what the prequels did were absolutely god awful. It at least showed you a sense of scale. It showed you things that were going on. Yes, it got boring because it was politics, and George Lucas had a hard on for saying George Lucas was a Nazi. No, George Lucas had a hard on for saying George Bush was a Nazi. But I mean, it's just how. I mean, at least gave you the time to really see how things were in the Old Republic. And yes, a lot of it was flawed, and a lot of it people really hated, and a lot of it I really hated. But it was better than nothing. But here, they got rid of all the world building. Like, you don't know how the First Order came to be. You don't know why Kylo is a Darth Vader wannabe. You don't understand basically anything. Right? And there was a lot of things left up for interpretation on that. Like, maybe Darth Vader was talking to Anakin's ghost. Well, maybe Ben Solo was talking to Anakin's ghost, but instead of it being Anakin, it was a corrupt version of it. Like, it was Darth Vader seeping his way into Kylo. Which, alright, would have made a lot of sense, alright? Because I do not buy that Snoke was the be-all, end-all for Kylo Ren turning into the dark side. I don't. I just don't. It doesn't. I don't feel that. All right, especially considering we don't get what we got in the prequels with Anakin and Palpatine's dynamic duo. I mean, considering we don't get that at all, I just really didn't feel that type of connection like I did. Because I mean, like I said, you can criticize the prequels all you want, but at least gave us the dynamics. So, anyway, yeah, and Kylo Ren's basically this, and then Supreme Leader Snoke, he's just a guy who came out of nowhere. Who is this guy? Why is he able to basically take what Palpatine left and turn it into a galaxy-known force that is basically going around killing everybody it doesn't like? It's like, how is this happening? We don't know. So it's just like, and seriously, and then Kylo, he's always contradicting himself in his, not only in his actions, but in his words. Right? Like, well, not really contradicting himself. He's undermining himself. Because, like, one of the big things was that he found BB-8 in the forest on the planet with the lady, Maz Kanata. Like, he found BB-8, but he also had Rey, and he looked into Rey's mind, saw that she had a map. It's like, nah, I'm just going to go ahead and, I'll just go ahead and take her instead of getting the droid that was 10 feet away from you. It's like, are you shitting me? Like, you're kidding, right? Like, there's no way that this is going to fall through with a bunch of people on release. And it did. And it did with me, too. It's like one of the things I really thought was completely irritating was the fact that BB-8 was right there, okay? Right, getting information out of a person's mind isn't as easy as getting information from a droid. All right, and Kylo did that twice in the movie. He did that. He did that with freaking Poe Dameron on the planet surface to Jakku. But the only thing that really worked for him there was the fact that he wasn't a fucking force user. That Poe wasn't a fucking force user. Poe was not a force user. All right, and Rey became a force user literally 2 seconds into that conversation. And yes, there was that stupid thing about her touching Luke's lightsaber and seeing a bunch of shit that technically Luke's lightsaber shouldn't have seen because it had been lost on Haas. It was lost to not Haas, at Bespin. So it's just like, how the hell is she able to see into this? And it shows you a little bit about what happened to Kylo and left a lot of things open to interpretation in the third movie. Well, in the second movie of the trilogy. So it's just like, well, how the hell? We didn't get any implications about this, okay? We didn't know anything. It's like, how was Rey able to not only connect with the lightsaber, but the lightsaber feels connected enough to say, Rey, you're good and you can help. And it's just like, huh? It's like, are you kidding? So it's just weird. It's just really weird, all right? And I know a lot of people are gonna give me flack for this, okay? It's like, but the flaws of The Force Awakens ruined the movie, all right? I like a lot of flawed films that are good, all right? Like Atlantis Lost Empire is one of my favorite movies of all time, and is probably the most underrated Disney film of all time, all right? And a lot of people, and it was panned by critics, by some critics, but I love that movie, okay? That movie is an action movie through and through. It has its flaws, sure, but it is freaking amazing. It's like, it does so many things well. It is well paced for an hour 30-minute movie. It has great dialogue, though sometimes it gets a little cringy. But overall, it's a super fun movie to watch. It's a great action flick. And it really set up its own thing to where it really felt like it was another world. It's like there was things to look at. There was things to like. It just looked so good. But of course Disney had to ruin it with the sequel machine. Because them not even doing a proper sequel, just a straight to video comedy. Yeah, good job, Disney. Yeah, you wonder why I don't trust Disney with Star Wars, why I didn't trust Disney with Star Wars when they required it from George Lucas. Atlantis Lost Empire was a big example. Beauty and the Beast. Mulan 2. There's a lot of examples. I could go on and on about it. But anyway. Yeah, that was just... It's just like... I mean, seeing all the Force Awakens flaws just kind of ruined the film for me. And also, what the fuck happened to Luke? Why is he gone? Alright, that was also a big flaw. That, depending on who you ask, was made better or worse by The Last Jedi. But we'll get into that later. But The Force Awakens flaws just kind of ruined the movie for me. And that didn't really help, considering once we got to Rogue One, it was basically just a rehash. Basically like a prequel to A New Hope. And not a lot of people really felt it was necessary, and depending on who you ask, it was either a really great film or it wasn't. And I'm not going to go into that movie's flaws. I'm just focusing on the mainline trilogy here. But people were getting pissed off with Star Wars. With the Star Wars Disney trilogy. Well, Star Wars and the Star Wars Disney stuff. After The Force Awakens and Rogue One, depending on who you ask. But The Last Jedi was really the crux of it. Alright. So, anyway, well, The Last Jedi, no. And The Force Awakens was the crux of why so many people don't like Disney Star Wars. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll come out with the next part. I don't know what I'm going to title it yet or what I'm going to do with it, but anyway, I will see you guys later. Don't die.